So, if you haven't watched my first video on my story and growing up in meetings and um, all that, make sure to check that out. So I wanted to make another video kind of talking a little bit more about um, what happened after I left. And so I left in 2013, and my wife had left. She didn't grow up going to meetings, but she had left about a year earlier, not quite maybe. Um, so it's been, about 7 years since I've left. The first thing we did shortly after I left was we moved. We decided to sell our house, and we actually bought a big old fifth wheel, and we were going to live in that and travel around for a while. And then the government shut down, and our house sale got delayed, and just a lot of things happened. So we ended up just moving across the state and found a little farmhouse that we were able to remodel, and spent a lot of time doing that. We didn't go to church right away because I was working on the house, but shortly after we moved, we found just a little non-denominational church, and we were able to go there for a while. And then I think the biggest thing though is, after you leave, you don't have to just jump into going to another church. It's going to be different for sure. It's going to be a lot of change and a lot of things to try to figure out that go against what your brain tells you. And but the first thing that I did when I left, before we moved or anything, the first thing I did, and I would recommend this to anybody who has left, and even if they haven't, maybe they've left 10 years ago, but they haven't done this yet. But the first thing I would do would be to, not to get rid of your Bible, but get a new Bible. And do your research on what translation that you think would be the best. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what would be the most accurate translation, and I'll do a video sometime on that too, because I think that's a really interesting subject, especially for people who grew up going to meetings. But anyways, so I got a new Bible, and the main reason, even if you get another King James, which is fine, but the main reason that you want to get a new Bible is because, you've spent your life looking over the pages of the current Bible, and you maybe have some notes in there, or you have you might have some markers or whatever, or just that same verse on the very same page, so you know exactly where everything is. So what happens is, when you go back and you read that, all of those memories or thoughts that you've had from going to meetings, it's the same, it's like the same thing. And so I got a new Bible, ended up getting ESV, and like I said, I'll make a video on that later. But then it's like a new Bible, because you're reading it with different goggles on, different lenses, but it's also, verses are on different pages, and the layout's going to be a little bit different, so it gives you just a clear, fresh start for reading. But anyway, so we moved across the state and found a place, fixed it up, and then we adopted our second son, and he, just being a little baby, but then there was 4 of us, And our house was small. It was under 1,000 square feet, really tiny old farmhouse built by the Quakers. Oh, one interesting thing is, so when we were starting to learn all these things, our house was built in 1890, and so it was actually built prior to the truth being started. And so that was kind of an interesting thing for me, just to kind of realize that here is a house that was built prior to what we were always told was forever, since the continuation of the first century church. So anyways, but we decided that house was going to be a little bit too small for us, so we went and bought another house, moved, I don't know, a little over an hour, I guess it was, from our current house. And so we went and bought that, and so we left the church that we were going to, and we decided to, I was in insurance, I decided to start my own insurance agency, and so we bought a building, an old building, and then things didn't work out with the insurance company, long story, anyways. So then we started a coffee shop, and that coffee shop was probably the best thing that helped heal and to kind of get me past a lot of the thoughts and the hurt that I had from leaving. And the reason why is because we would regularly have pastors come in. We'd have a lot of different church pastors came in. One in particular that we got to know really good. He was kind of a coffee snob, so he helped out a lot with starting the coffee shop and stuff. So that was fun. But there was Bible studies. We had Bible studies at the coffee shop. We had, just table talk, so it was really good and a good healing time for us. So I feel very lucky that happened. We ended up going to a Baptist church there. It was about the closest thing we could find to a non-denominational church. That was kind of my first eye-opener to, there's a lot of people who go to church, no matter what church it is, that aren't really Christians. When we had our coffee shop, I'd have, different companies come and they'd be swearing and, whatever, and then went to church, and there they were. And but anyways, so that was kind of my first eye-opener of the true way through Jesus. And it doesn't matter what church, doesn't matter if you go to meetings, doesn't matter, whatever religion you consider yourself a part of. There's a lot of people that are not saved that are going to church and filling the pews or the seats, the chairs, whatever. So anyways, after that, we decided, we ran the coffee shop for a few years, and then we felt like we should be doing something more. And so we sold our house again, sold the coffee shop, and we bought another fifth wheel, and we traveled full time. By this time, we had adopted our daughter, and so we loaded up and we worked with YWAM, which is Youth with a Mission, and we had traveled to a bunch of different base camps, kind of doing different things to help with logistical things. We did a lot of cleaning and repair, construction work, cooking, different things like that. And so we got to meet a lot of other what I guess growing up going to meetings we'd call crazy people, worldly people, but all these different backgrounds of people working for the glory of God, and it was really cool to be able to see a lot of that. Our son started having night terrors, and traveling, moving was really hard on the kids all the time, just not having a place to be. And so we decided we needed to settle down after that year. We needed to try to figure out what we could do without moving around so much, and hopefully that the kids wouldn't be so affected by. So we ended up buying a place. I'll spare a lot of the details to make it a bit shorter, but we ended up buying a place that was close to, actually right down the hill from my wife's parents' place, and we moved in there, bought that place, and we lived there for not very long, and we both kind of realized this isn't where we were going to be for long term. And so I started with a ministry called Village Missions, and what they do is they place pastors in churches that either can't find a pastor or can't afford it, or both. And so I started an online seminary, basically is what it is, and it's kind of like a condensed version of seminary. It was planned to be done over about 2 years, but I was able to do it full time, and so I had kind of just really kind of dug into it, and I was doing it about 8 hours a day, and it was really good because I was able to study a lot of different things. We did a New Testament and Old Testament survey and read through the entire Bible, did outline of the Bible, did the Bible timeline, and then we did church history, going all the way back from the disciples and the apostles back in the first century, all the way through all the different time periods. And then I did history and Christian doctrine, and just a lot of different courses that you learn the history of not only the Bible, but also where all these different denominations came in from, and things like that. So it was really helpful in learning all of those things that, of course, you're not taught going to meetings, but it's really good information to know the history of the church and things like that. So then that led into an internship with Village Missions, and we moved out to Ohio last year and started a pastoral internship with them. Not going to go into a lot of details on that, but we met a guy out there by the name of Joe, and he had started a ministry to the Amish, and he grew up Amish, and his ministry has blossomed into this huge, crazy ministry, and God has really blessed him with it. And we got a chance on a number of occasions to sit down and talk with him, and so it was really cool to be able to see somebody who really has kind of a similar so my phone died, and I had to go get my wife's. Anyway, so we met Joe, and after we had met Joe, I started realizing that there's a possibility that this is something that I could do, start some sort of a ministry to people who have left meetings and have kind of gone off the deep end, if you will, where they're so hurt and felt betrayed and just don't really know what to do, or people who still going to meetings. There's a great need for people to reach out to people who go to meetings and who are in this legalism. So the way I've explained people who haven't gone to meetings, the way I explain it kind of is, it's like they're in a snow globe. When you're on the outside, you can see that the snow is just going around in circles, and it's kind of, generation after generation. It just is going around in circles, and it's self-contained, and it just continues and continues. But when you're on the inside, it just looks like pretty snow, and it's just going around, and you can't see anything else. It's blinding you because you're in this little globe. But once you're on the outside, you can clearly see that there's just this revolving cycle. And so, anyways, I really, ever since I've left, it's been a desire, a calling to reach out to people who are still going to meetings, and to hopefully share with them, biblical truths. And so it's always, kind of been a desire of mine, but I've never really known how to approach it. You can't just go into a convention with a loudspeaker and start talking to people. Until we met Joe and his work with the Amish, and it's a lot of the things that he does have been an encouragement to me on what that could look like, and what kind of possibility that could be. And so we talked with Village Missions in our internship about whether we could have this kind of a ministry while pastoring a small church. And they said, well, maybe in a few years. They kind of frowned upon it. And so we were kind of faced with a decision: do we continue with Village Missions, or do we start a ministry and to the friends and workers? And that was a pretty easy decision for me. It was, it was hard, but ultimately it was pretty easy. That I really do feel like we've been called to reach out to them. And so we ended up kind of finishing up the internship in March. COVID hit, and everything kind of came crashing to a halt, especially out in Ohio. There's a lot more people, and so things kind of slowed way down. And so we decided to move back to South Dakota. We bought a place here in South Dakota, and have been building a house all summer long. And we were moved in. It's not done, far from done, but we're moved in now. And so I hope to be able to start, making some videos and sharing some different things with not only people who still go to meetings, but people who have left and maybe are questioning or need some sort of direction. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and hope to be able to get more videos posted, Lord willing. And like I said, the next video I would like to do is talking about different Bible translations, and what some things that helped me when I decided to which one I decided to pick for my daily reading. I have a whole bunch of them. I mean, I've got, I don't know, 8 different translations, and that's good because you can research and you can compare. But it's good to have one good one for reading. So, anyways, hope you guys have a great day. If you have any questions, like I said, just shoot me a message or something, and would love to talk to you. And we'll see you next time.